Tonight, the ferry fiasco. In Turkey, a new CalMac ship is launched, but islanders here say it won't solve all the problems.
We seem to be stumbling from crisis to crisis in our ferry system, and there's a lot of us working in the community very hard to try and get the best service we can.
Also making the headlines, should it be the end of the line for peak fares on Scotland's trains?
In sport, the SPFL are to launch an investigation after Rangers' game against Dundee at Dens Park was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch.
And tributes to Henry Ruga, who's died at the age of 100. As a child refugee, he fled Nazi Germany to find safety in Scotland. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Islanders say Scotland's ferry service is stumbling from crisis to crisis due to a lack of resilience in the system. Breakdowns and cancellations are causing disruption to businesses as well as missed hospital appointments. A new ferry for the Isla route was launched in Turkey at the weekend.
It's due to be in service by the end of this year, with another scheduled next year. While a welcome addition, residents there claim they have been dealing with a second-rate service while they're built and are facing another summer of disruption. From Isla, our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
Keeping islands connected has grown increasingly difficult.
All right, today you.
Fraser Campbell returned to Isla 5 years ago to run this shop.
You get a lot of, for goodness sake, what is it this time?
But ferry breakdowns and cancellations have hit sales and left shelves empty.
There's been times where the bread, which we get 3 times a week, could be sitting at the other side at Kennaicraig for over a day and a half. By the time you get it in, the next lot's coming in pretty soon after, and yeah, you're just having to waste a load of food. Or people, you've got empty shelves, people don't have things to buy.
Tourism is big business on Isla. Every year the island stages Feis Ila, a 9-day festival of whisky and music. Organisers say it generates £10 million for the local economy. But this year they're concerned no additional ferries are being laid on to cope with demand.
There's been an unfortunate rise in cancellations, people cancelling their accommodation as well. So it's been a real problem for our visitors, a lot of whom are travelling from mainland Europe, USA, Asia. But there's also human issues as well in that. People not being able to get away for hospital appointments, being able to see families, being able to go on holiday themselves away from the island, as well as people coming over to the island.
CalMac says it's working to identify additional capacity.
The anger and frustration felt here is mirrored in island communities up and down this coast. One of the main issues is the ageing fleet. Older ferries means more repairs, putting many out of action for months at a time.
This is one of the oldest. Last year, Hebridean Isles was sidelined for 10 months. 2 new ferries being built in Port Glasgow are 6 years overdue and almost 4 times over budget.
With the Glen Sannox and Glen Rosa not entering service, there are no other vessels in the network that can be brought in to relieve. We seem to be stumbling from crisis to crisis in our ferry system, and there's a lot of us working in the community very hard to try and get the best service we can, but unfortunately we sort of feel that it's falling on deaf ears. It just seems that we're getting a second-rate service.
Isla is getting 2 new ferries. The first was launched in Turkey at the weekend. It's due to be in service by December.
What difference do you think these 2 new ferries will make?
It would be a big positive as long as it does work and it does increase and everything runs smoothly.
There is hope on the horizon. But islanders here and beyond still face a summer of uncertainty. Ewan Petrie, STV News, Isla.
Cheaper trains all day could become permanent after Transport Scotland said it was carefully considering the results of a trial which saw peak time fares scrapped.
It's facing calls to abolish them forever, with campaigners saying the extra charges for travelling at busy times amount to an unfair tax on workers. A senior reporter, Gordon Cree, has been following the story. So Gordon, what's behind this?
John, this is Haymarket Station, one of the busiest stops on the route between Edinburgh and Glasgow. And until just a few months ago, a return ticket between the two cities in the morning and evening rush would have set you back the best part of £30. But since October, as a trial, those peak tickets have been scrapped. So that means the off-peak charge applies whenever you take the train. And that means the equivalent ticket now costs about half of what it did before. Environmentalists and rail unions say that that situation should stay. And from passengers we've been talking today, the situation has been simply explained: if you make the trains cheaper, more people will use them.
Definitely, yeah. It's been really good, the trial, last couple of months with the peak tickets being reduced to the off-peak prices, so yeah.
Rain comes back and forth to Edinburgh all the time because she's at university, and the rail fares have been expensive, but if there's no kind of on-peak, off-peak, that would definitely be much better for us.
Do you think cheaper fares would make you use the train more?
Yes, definitely. Public transport is way too expensive. It's encouraging people to take cars, which is just not good for the environment.
We can see quite clearly that train travel has increased since the trial was brought in, and I think we need to be really honest. Peak time fares are a taxation on working people. They hit the lowest paid the hardest, and they discourage people from travelling on train. At a time when we're talking about, the Scottish Government are certainly talking about the climate targets that they've set for 2030, well, the easiest way to hit those targets is to get people out of cars and onto trains.
So Gordon, clear views there. What chance of this continuing?
Well, the trial period, which was due to finish in the spring, has now been extended until the end of June. Transport Scotland say they'll carefully consider the impact of the pilot. Now, as we've heard anecdotally, passenger numbers are up, and they say the extension will give them more data to evaluate. Of course, doing this has come at a cost of millions of pounds. So ultimately, whether it continues at a time when budgets are tight will come down to whether the decision makers can make the numbers add up. John.
Gordon at Haymarket, thank you.
Campaigners are warning heartbreaking cuts to health and social care services in Edinburgh are likely to be replicated across Scotland in the coming weeks as the bodies in charge of commissioning care attempt to balance their budgets. But there's a stark warning that reducing services will hit the most vulnerable and cost lives.
A protest against care cuts in Glasgow is planned for tomorrow. Our political reporter Laura Alderman has been meeting those affected in Edinburgh, where officials say a lack of funding has left them with no other option.
Most days it's hard to get a seat at this bustling lunch club in Edinburgh's Wrestlerig area. It provides a discounted hot meal for older and vulnerable people, but it's now under threat. In a bid to make £60 million worth of savings, third sector organisations like this one are facing a 10% cut to their funding from the city's integrated joint board, the organisation that commissions care in the capital.
The 10% is actually the equivalent of us running our lunch club. And for us, it just doesn't make sense. If people don't come here, they won't come out of their house, they won't see anybody. And we would have to refer them to social care for some support at home. So actually that whole saving of 10% will actually cost the EIJB more.
Losing this lunch club is an unbearable thought for Anne.
This is my community, this is my family. If we lose this project, my mental health will go downhill because I don't go out the house, but I come here 2 days a week. So you take this project away from everybody, I'm going to be housebound.
I'd be lost. You'd have to sit in the house.
I get unsettled when I go home because the place is empty and there's nobody there. So you get real pleasure and company, as I say.
I really enjoy it. And I'll keep coming as long as I can.
Two council-run care homes, Clovenstone and Fords Road, are also set to close as part of the cuts. Their 68 residents will be moved elsewhere. People who receive care at home will have their packages reassessed and, if necessary, reduced or resized. But Michael, who has learning disabilities, says he had his package completely withdrawn with no warning.
I was going right down the hill. My partner was doing a lot, and it might have affected my relationship. I was angry, isolated, and I felt like I was just wanting to do something, and that was it.
With help from campaigners, Michael fought the decision and his package has now been partially reinstated. But across Scotland, it's unclear just how many people are losing support.
Probably about 30 people that we know of, 20 of them are from Edinburgh. So I'm guessing from those statistics that Edinburgh is taking a lead on that. Other local authorities might follow suit.
All the chief officers across Scotland are concerned about these. I can't speak on behalf of everybody else, but certainly the discussions that we've had so far take into account that these are really, really difficult times to be operating in health and social care at the moment, and the significant pressures will be felt across all of Scotland.
As other boards look to balance their books in the coming weeks, all are grappling with the same challenge of how to look after more older and vulnerable people, but for less. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
Meanwhile, the NHS is looking for people to work at Glasgow's new drug consumption facility. Jobs include a nurse team leader and operational manager. The service, allowing addicts to inject drugs such as heroin under the supervision of health professionals, is expected to open in late summer. The family of a man who went missing on holiday in Lanzarote last St Patrick's Day have told STV News they'll never give up hope. Gary Shearer from Renfrew travelled to the Canary Island to celebrate in the sunshine, but he never made it home. Brandon Cook reports.
He wouldn't say booty a goose. It's just so friendly. He would talk away with anybody, and once you get into a conversation, he wouldn't want to leave.
It's torture daily, just not knowing where he is.
Gary Shearer travelled alone to Puerto del Carmen and Lanzarote to celebrate St Patrick's Day last year. The 53-year-old had been the previous year with his father and was looking forward to returning.
I was buzzing to go enjoy St Patrick's Day. I'd bought him a new green shirt and he texted me 2 days before going. And he's like, I love my shirt, perfect fit. I'll wear it on the plane and I'll maybe get a wee bird. That's what he says. with my good looks and my good patter. I've got that text, I'll keep it forever.
But the die-hard Celtic fan was only there a matter of hours before he vanished. Despite dedicated efforts from his family, Gary has never been found.
When he says he was going himself back over to Lanzarote, and I says I wasn't going, it's the guilt I've got now because I says I wasn't going was unreal. Oh. It's just, because I'd have been with him, it would never have happened. It's been hell. Just, it's like being on pause. You just can't get on with life.
Gary travelled from his home in Renfrew to Lanzarote on March the 16th last year. He checked into his apartment and went out for the evening, where he's said to have been in a jovial mood. Shortly before midnight, he was reportedly spotted asleep in a doorway. Gary had type 2 diabetes and epilepsy. Then the last confirmed sighting of him was in the early hours of St Patrick's morning. CCTV shows Gary on the left with an unknown man at around 1:15. The man is in his 60s or 70s with grey hair, walking with Gary in the direction of San Antonio. Spanish authorities released this image in August, but haven't been able to identify him. Gary hasn't been seen since. Today, his mother and sister travelled to the spot where he was last seen to hand out missing posters in a desperate bid to jog someone's memory.
We know somebody on that island knows something. What happened to our brother. We know that. We just urge them to come forward. It might not seem much to them, but you never know. It could lead us to where Gary is.
Gary's family are meeting with Spanish investigators again on Wednesday. They know it's likely he's come to harm, but will do whatever it takes to bring him home. Brandon Cook, STV News, Renfrew.
Yes, he's here. Rahman has the sport.
Bring it on, John. Thanks very much. Good evening to you all. The SPFL are to launch an investigation into the circumstances that led to Rangers' Premiership match against Dundee at Dens Park to be postponed yesterday. The game was called off 90 minutes prior to kick-off due to a waterlogged pitch. Philippe Clement made his unhappiness known, saying the state of the pitch and the postponement did not reflect well on Scottish football. Well, 24 hours earlier, Celtic moved a point clear of Rangers at the top of the table following their 3-1 win over St Johnstone. Scotland's head of referees, Crawford Allen, will leave his post at the end of the season. The SFA say they will review and possibly change the role before appointing his successor. Allen, who has been in the post for over 4 years, oversaw the introduction of video assistant referees last season. His departure comes at a time when referees have come under increased criticism from managers and supporters, with VAR creating plenty of controversy. Celtic women's head coach Elena Sadiku says teams will now fear her side after their 2-1 win over leaders Rangers. Natasha Flint scored twice in the victory. The result moves Celtic to within a point of the Ibrox club at the top of the table. To rugby, and Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend says this year's Six Nations Championship is one that got away. The Scots suffered their third defeat of the campaign at the weekend, losing 17-13 to Ireland. As Ireland celebrated back-to-back Six Nations titles, the Scotland players could only watch on as their campaign ended with another defeat. For Gregor Townsend, it was a championship of what-ifs.
We've had chances to win all games. I think we've obviously, the 3 games we lost were all within a score. That's even more disappointing for us. We felt we should have won against France. We underperformed against Italy, but we performed well today, and we performed well in the 2 victories. So, look, it is what it is. Two wins is not what we set out to do and what we believe this team are capable of achieving.
So this is how the Six Nations table looks after the final round of games. Scotland finishing in 4th place. In Townsend's 7 shots at the championship, the Scots have never finished higher than 3rd, which was in his first attempt. The lowest position, 5th, came the year after. Since then, they've been 4th on 4 occasions and finished 3rd once. So, is the team making any progress under the head coach?
1 step forward, 2 back at the moment. The scorecard isn't particularly pleasant to read. And I think it's the manner in which the team have capitulated at times. Gregor and his coaching team have to get to the bottom of why this team capitulate at times and why there's sloppiness on the field of play, when at times that there is excellence and there's some brilliant dynamics within the team.
There's McDowell. One of the positives from Saturday's game against Ireland was the performance of Stafford McDowell. The Glasgow Warriors inside centre impressed on his Six Nations debut.
He's such a good kid, you know, such a hard worker, down-to-earth guy. Just to see him his first start and play really well, you know, I thought he was exceptional. So I think it's just a start for him. He's got a big future.
With another campaign over, Scotland won't be back in action again until the summer when they tour North and South America. Yeah, disappointing Six Nations campaign for Scotland. Now, Scotland's deaf football team say they feel like second-class citizens after being forced to self-fund their trip to the European Championship this summer. The squad, made up entirely of deaf players who have severe to profound hearing loss, must raise £40,000 for travel and accommodation. Ronnie Charters went along to meet them.
As the country gears up for a huge summer of football, it's not just Steve Clarke's squad preparing for their Euros adventure. In the East End of Glasgow, Scotland's national deaf team are also hoping to conquer Europe. A squad made up of all ages and professions, looking to travel to Turkey for this year's European Championships. And for the players involved, it's the chance to fulfil a lifelong dream.
Well, I can remember way back when I was 6 or 7, and my mother and father would take us to watch Scotland Deaf playing, and my father had said to me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was saying, yeah, I want to play for Scotland. My father said, you can do that if you work hard. And that has been my dream ever since being a wee boy. I just want to wear that badge with honour. You know, I first of all got into the team when I was 16, and I was so proud to be selected for the squad. You know, when you watch hearing teams playing for Scotland, we're so proud, but we can't be part of that. So being part of the Deaf Scotland team is equally as proud.
But there's a problem. The team is entirely self-funded and are in need of around £40,000 in order to make the trip. At the moment, they're miles off their target.
Disappointing's not really the word. I mean, how do you put into words? You're so proud, you've worked so hard, and we might fail just because of some money. I mean, it's soul destroying. You know, it's my dream, it's all of our dream. We want to represent Scotland, we want to wear that badge, and it's just not having the funds. And it really is. It's soul destroying, and we just want people out there, any of your viewers, that can help for all of us, because we're a mixed bag here, you know, and we're confident and we're focused, and our dream is to go.
The team have set up a Just Giving page for donations in order to cover the squad's travel and accommodation during the tournament. But for the association, it's a frustrating time.
Well, really, originally the competition was going to cost £60,000, and we've been self-funding really all this time, just various things, and we've been relying on family, friends and other people just to, you know, get some money. We have a Just Giving page as well. We've had support from SFA with strips, but we've not unfortunately been able to get any actual financial funding. So at the moment, that's what we're looking for, some financial funding. I mean, I can say I feel like a second-class citizen in my own country, and I'm the same. You know, we're told in Scotland we're the same as each other, but all of a sudden, you know, we're proving that it's not. You know, I'm sure there's lots of people out there who want us to achieve that dream like I do.
The European Championships take place in Antalya in Turkey from May to June, with Scotland hoping to join 12 other nations taking part in the tournament. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
And we wish them all the best with their fundraising campaign. Finally, some tennis news, and Andy Murray has been drawn against Matteo Berrettini in the first round of the Miami Open. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow.
All right, thanks very much, Rahman. OK, let's get the weather forecast now from Sean.
A spell of sea air will be followed by a strong chance of you have to try these. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Well, at least it was a lovely start to the day. First half of the day, plenty of spring-like sunshine. Weather now going downhill with cloud and rain coming in from the west. But the good news is the bulk of the rain falls during tonight, and then we're back to much better weather tomorrow, and it should be like that on Wednesday as well. The first official day of spring. Not so nice towards the end of the week. We'll have a look at that in a second. But look at these overnight temperatures. With the cloud, the rain around through this evening and tonight, those temperatures probably around North Lanarkshire, Glasgow, Renfrewshire, Inverclyde, the Bartonshire and North Ayrshire, staying about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. Still staying about the low 50s in Fahrenheit, above where we should be even during the day at this time of year. So a very mild night to come, but it will be quite a wet one. Now, we'll start off with a few showers around in the morning, but the bulk of those showers head away southwards, never back to where we've been earlier on today. Plenty of dry and sunny weather, and again, not feeling too bad in that sunshine, with highs up to around 10 or 11 degrees Celsius as that sunshine continues to get stronger and stronger as we move our way into spring. So the first day of spring, dry, fine and sunny, especially across western parts. A wee bit more cloud perhaps around the likes of Falkirk, Stirling, the risk of a few light showers also across parts of Lanarkshire and West Lothian. But for most of us, it will be a dry, bright, quiet start to spring. Not so good on the second and third day though. On Thursday we see strong winds coming in, gales around coastal parts and heavy rain, especially in the west. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally from us, tributes are being paid to Henry Wuga, the Second World War refugee who came to Scotland from Nazi Germany in 1939. He's died aged 100.
Mr Wuga made Glasgow his home after fleeing his homeland via the Kindertransport Child Safety Mission. He dedicated his life to educating people about the horrors of the Holocaust. Here's our special correspondent, Bernard Ponsonby.
Henry Wuga's life was partly defined by the horrors of war. He fled Germany at the age of 15 in 1939, settling in Scotland at a time when Hitler's henchmen planned the genocide of an entire people.
When in 1935 the Nuremberg laws were promulgated and these Nazis marching 15 abreast in their brown shirts. So Nuremberg was a particularly bad place to live. You became a Jew, a dirty Jew. It felt terrible. I was very fortunate. My mother found room on the Kindertransport. We were doubly fortunate. We had a relative in Glasgow.
The Holocaust stands as a memorial to evil. Henry Wuga's life and that of his late wife Ingrid serves as a permanent reminder that to remember the 6 million innocent victims is a way of saying you must never forget if you want to prevent such horrors from happening again. The former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon today recalled an extraordinary human being. Labour leader Anas Sarwar said he was warm, charming and compassionate. And the chief executive of the Holocaust Memorial Trust, Olivia Marks-Wildman, said he was a gentleman, charming, dapper, and above all, a force for good. That good was born from the adversity of war. His life had a noble purpose: to educate, to prevent horror from visiting another generation.
Lived experience now moving into history.
And Scotland Tonight is on air this evening, not with you, John, but another Mackay.
It is another Mackay. It's Colin Mackay. Can never get enough Mackays. That's a 10:40 from all of us. Good night.
Good night.